All right, and we are live on the No Sky podcast on the ninth episode of the No Sky podcast. I am your host, Matt Griffin. I also am the owner of the No Sky podcast, where we discuss mental health in the African American community. And today I have with me special guest Jara Clark. She is a graduate of Norfolk State University. So if you was a Spartan, definitely stand up. Also, she is a author. She is also a fitness model and a psychologist and many more things. And we about to get into this interview right now. Jar, how you feel today? Introduce yourself.
Peace, peace, peace. Like you said, brother, my name is Jara Clark. I'm feeling live and well. I'm glad to be here with you today.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I appreciate that. We like to definitely welcome you to the No Sky podcast. It was definitely appreciated that you decided to come on the podcast where we discuss mental health in the African American community. So for those who are not familiar with you and what do you do, introduce yourself and let them know exactly why mental health or being a graduate of Norfolk State University with a degree in psychology. Let us know how that came about.
Man, okay, so backstory, right? As a child, and you can ask my mother, she will confirm this. I always wanted to be one of two things, a psychologist or a chef, right? But ultimately, I wanted to be a mother. And if you ask anybody's mama, you are also a psychologist and a chef.
No doubt.
So as a young kid, hindsight, I can look back and with the words that I have now, say that I wanted to understand myself. And the best way to do that is psychology. It's the study of the mind, and the mind is what controls the body. Everybody suffers with their own setbacks. Mine happened to be depression and anxiety, plus a few other things throughout my young life, because I'm only 35. And it was my children that kind of was a straw that broke the camel's back. You know, enough is enough, so to speak, that made me snap out of it. For other people, it may be anything, God knows what, you know, their health decaying or the loss of life of a family member. But that for me was what changed me. As a parent, I realized I was telling my kids we eat, sleep, and exercise, and that's how we take care of ourselves. Tell them every day, make them repeat it religiously, you know, like a drill sergeant. And then I had to look at myself one day in the mirror and be like, yo, I'm not following the thing that I'm telling my kids. And that makes me hypocritical. And that was a no-go. But again, I realized it was a mental thing, right? How can I sit here? Go ahead.
So let me ask you this question. Okay, so you made 2 points. Well, actually, you said 2 things. You said religiously and God. Now, this is something that we discuss on pretty much every episode is religion when it comes to mental health. Now, I'm gonna state this, and you let me know your stance on it. I do believe me growing up in a African American church, religion was pushed very, very hard. More so because our forefathers and grandparents who raised us and mothers, unfortunately, most of us growing up in the African American community did not grow up with our fathers. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it was mom and grandmother, and it was the church that raised us. They did the best that they could for what they knew how to do. But I believe in the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, I believe more Black people are definitely seeking therapy for mental health issues that they may be having, depression, anxiety, things of that nature. And we was taught for so long to just pray things away and to really go to a psychiatrist or a therapist as an African American was smiled. It wasn't really it was frowned upon. You know, do you believe that was because of just was that like a slave mentality type thing, or do you think that it was just a way to break us per se to go see a psychologist, and knowing most of the time 9 times out of 10 that psychologist was going to be a white person or somebody that's now an African American who really don't understand where we come from? That was a loaded question, but
yeah, it was a loaded question. And you know, like the community, my kids are with me, so someone was coming in to just pass a simple message about my children.
Oh, no, it's cool.
But everything's great. So yeah, it is a lot of slavery, I think. I mean, if you watch that show, Black AF, everything can stem and be traced back to slavery. The crabs in a barrel, the Willie Lynch theory. There's a lot of things that can make us feel like, oh, we have no one to talk to. I mean, you could take it back to buck breaking, right? Whereas the strongest man is broke down in front of his village. And if that's my man, my king, and now he can't even save me, then who do I run to? Like who said it? Escape?
Yeah, it was Escape.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Platinum
most
song,
definitely.
by the way, but yeah.
Exactly. Most definitely. It's one of those things that has been deeply conditioned. Um, More recently, what is it? Don't snitch,
Yeah.
right? In the
Yeah.
hood, doing
Yeah.
the snitches get stitches. All of that plays in our head over and over again. And what do you think we gonna do? We're not gonna talk to anybody. I'm not gonna. First of all, I don't even trust half of my community. I don't trust the women because the women are gold diggers. I don't trust the men because the men are liars. Who we gonna talk to? And then therapy has always been characterized as something not of anybody's community except for Caucasians. So I'm not going to go talk to this man who has never understood, been in my predicament, and tell him my most innermost thoughts and feelings. And then men are not allowed to show emotion. So then they're really not talking. And women have too much emotion. So we can't talk to the men that have no emotions. It's all a clusterfuck. Like it's terrible. It is terrible. And all of it stems, yes, from slavery.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to say about that. I'm gonna keep 100 with you. So, do I believe in God? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tiebreaker, right? So this is a tiebreaker. The
Okay.
tiebreaker is Jesus. That's the whole. Like everybody believes. I believe most humanity believes in God, but their perspective on Jesus and how Jesus came about, depending on what belief that you have. Some believe that Jesus was just a prophet. Some people believe that Jesus was really the Son of God and sits on the right hand side of God. So that was always the division, even amongst in the African American community. Me personally, do I believe in Jesus? Absolutely. Do I rock with him? 100%. That'll never change. But at the same time, I do understand that I believe that God gave us common sense at the same time. And I do believe that a lot of times when we do things, it's more so because of what we saw growing up, what other people do. So we kind of lean on that. But in all fairness, I would tell anybody, if you're having any type of mental health issues, please go talk to someone. Even if it's not a therapist or a psychologist, talk to somebody that you trust.
Right.
Because I personally believe you cannot pray everything away. I believe that depending on whatever your path in life is, some people go through certain things to get you to where you're supposed to be at in life.
Mm-hmm.
For
The
those who
Bible
are
says faith without works is dead.
exactly. And me personally, I was telling you about this earlier before we actually started recording. Those who don't know my story, I'll give a little bit of backstory of me. When I was 12 years old, I was placed in a psychiatric hospital for nearly 3 months. I was diagnosed as being emotionally disturbed. From there, I was placed in special education from 6th grade through 12th grade. I will tell anybody, being in that hospital was cake versus being in a special education system. Because once they put you in that small classroom and put you on the main hallway for everybody to see you, that alone will tear you down mentally. It's like to be in a psychiatric hospital and you're in there with me, you can't say anything about me because you're in there too. So how can I judge you when we're both on trial? You know what I'm saying? So, but being in special education, coming from a regular classroom setting, from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade and most of 6th grade until towards the end, and to be put in from a 25, 30 room classroom to 5 kids max. And a lot of these kids really had emotional issues. That was a devastating part for me. And I had to learn how to mentally prepare myself every single day to deal with the stress and the humiliation of being in that classroom, because it just doesn't end there. This carries outside of the classroom. This carries to your neighborhood, because people that you go with, your like-minded peers, they live in your neighborhood. So they know you in this classroom. You know what I mean? So then you're trying to fight the stigma of, and you know, we in our period, our time growing up, you know, if you was in a small class, you was considered slow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, learning disability or whatever. But that wasn't the case for me. Mine was emotional, you know, and granted, I had a horrible temper. Definitely, I won't deny it. But besides that, I was perfectly fine, you know, and to see things that I saw in that hospital, the padded rooms, the papoose board. You know what I mean? I write about this in my book, my upcoming book. I talk about this experience, to see a child strapped down in a straight jacket with Velcro straps going across their body, strapped down for 2 hours. I seen kids literally punch walls and break bones, you know, off of just you know that whole system. So, and that's why I decided to do this mental health podcast, because by the grace of God, I overcame all of those situations, you know, because I never believed the system. I never believed what they was telling me. But unfortunately, we talked about this on the previous episode, growing up in most of us Black African Americans growing up in low income housing, one parent, most of the time it's the mother. A lot of times the grandmother living there, or the aunts, you know, uncles, cousins, you know, all crammed up in Section 8 housing. Do you believe that growing up in those circumstances for Black people, that those circumstances definitely play a part in our mental health?
All of it. I know from growing up in a house, same scenario, you know, my mom was essentially a single mom. My dad was in prison for most of my life. I think the first time I remember meeting him, I was 8, and then he kind of came and went as he pleased, but I really didn't see him, you know. So single mom, she, matter of fact, actually worked in special education for 32 years and was able to retire from there. But moving down here and then trying to find a mate and dating people, a lot of men lived in exactly the situation that you spoke of. And then for us, it was like 2 different worlds. Like, yeah, we can relate. Yo, my mom raised me, your mom raised you. But I'm like, okay, I don't understand why you don't want a house for yourself, a car for yourself, you know, an education for yourself, because that what was afforded to me as a child. The mindset is different because you just see different things. Like, in having kids now, my kids eat a healthy diet simply because that's all they know how to do. They haven't been exposed to the chitterlings and the fat back and the pork and all of that. That's just not the life that they lead. Now, will they go on and do it later in life? Possibly, but they're less likely, because for at least, let's say 13 years of their life, they're only 9 and 5, but we're going to try to make it till 13, that they don't eat anything outside of that. Imagine that same consequence of our living style, whatever it is, whether your parents are or not verbally or physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually abusive, and having to endure that, like you were saying, mentally prepare your whole life, that kind of thing. And then you go out into the world where people have or have not experienced that same lifestyle. You're either going to relate or not relate, but that doesn't make it okay. And therein lies the problem. Our world has been so conditioned mentally in an imbalance, that when we start to try to find and do the things that are in alignment, they feel weird.
Now you said, you spoke on something. Now you said parents who abuse their children spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate on that.
So as a female, we hear a lot where if a woman or a young girl has sex before a certain age, you know, she might go to hell or something like that, or now she's unclean, or you know, just vile things. Whereas God will lose favor in a child for their behavior or their ignorance or their innocence, right? And then now they're condemned because that's how some parents choose to manipulate their children instead of disciplining them, right? And discipline is always felt to be a bad word, but discipline comes from disciple, which means to teach, right? And when you teach and when you learn, it's always hard. It's difficult because you don't know. But yeah, spiritual abuse, it's common amongst everything. I'm more familiar with it, unfortunately, in a partnership, where you're trying to use God as a reason why we should or shouldn't do X, Y, Z. But the same thing can be done from parent to child. You're telling your kids, God will be angry if you don't do this, or, twisting the words of the Bible to benefit you.
So is your stance on the Bible, or is it different?
Say it again.
Is your stance biblical, or does it come from a different perspective?
I can tell you throughout my whole life, I've studied everything. I like books.
Okay.
So I look at all of the holy books as guidebooks, as opposed to, factual information that came from a particular source, because I know they're each individually man-made and curated to some extent. So that means there's been editing and so on and so forth. And somebody's personal opinion has been written into these words. So I take them with a grain of salt, but I do, like most Black people, lean and reference the Bible heavily.
Got you. Now, and that's an interesting perspective, because I think as we evolve, we all are curious about certain things. I've known some people who study the Bible. Some people study the Torah. Some people study the Quran. Some people study all of them. Some people just may study just one. I personally believe, especially when it comes to your mental health, you have to do what's on your level and what's comfortable for you.
Correct.
And we also have to understand the difference between your mental health and being mentally ill.
Correct.
And in my personal opinion, I would say personal opinion, but at some time and some reference, a fact, when I was in that hospital, the majority of the adults that I saw, it was drug induced. Drugs meaning drugs and alcohol, because ultimately alcohol can become a drug if you allow it to be.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
Chemical substance.
Exactly. No, don't get me wrong. A drug, now you talk about popping pills and ecstasy and acid and heroin and crack and nothing about those things is good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't tell me because you're depressed, you go smoke crack. Nah. You know what I'm saying? People, no, that's not that's not normal. You know what I'm saying? You go, no, you don't know. You don't do stuff like that. So the reason why I say that is because, when I was going through the situations that I was going through, I had to feel every emotion that I've, everything from depression to sadness to, people telling me I was bipolar, and we have to be very careful, because you do speak certain things into existence. Now don't get me wrong. Like I said, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling, suicidal, you definitely need to go see a therapist. Definitely. But I question people when anybody tells me they're going through or they have a mental health issue. The first thing I ask them is, what have you done about your situation? And they would say, well, I go talk to a therapist or I see a therapist. Okay, that's cool. That's good. What's the reason you're going to go see a therapist? Now, a lot of Black women that I have met over the years, and this is just, I can't relate to it. No female that I know of in my family that's ever admitted to it, that they were sexually abused when they was kids, right? The older I've gotten and the more I've done, research and done podcasts and done interviews, that seemed to happen a lot in the Black community when it comes to a lot of the Black females, that they were sexually abused when they were kids. And just the opposite, a lot of the men were sexually abused. One thing I've noticed Women, when they're sexually abused, raped as a child, they become promiscuous. When a man is sexually abused, he becomes aggressive. Because
Well,
that's his way of dealing with the trauma that he went through. And that's her way of dealing with the trauma that she went through.
well, think about this too. So, in addition to the abuse is the same, but the upbringing is different. So, if sexually abused women are taught to manipulate men with their body, then that abusive incident has now taught them how to continue, right? Oh, this is what he wants from me, therefore I give it to him, therefore I get what I want from him. Even though that's not how it works. But that's the mental process that's being taught, because women are they're told, oh, men only want to sleep with you, men only want one thing, which to some standpoint may be true, but not so much that a woman should succumb to only being that. And same for a man, you know. Yeah, promiscuity is normally what happens when a woman is abused as a child. And same, men get aggressive because now we're taught to man up. How did somebody get that close to you? Even if you were young, it doesn't matter. What's been taught to you is that you're a man, you should fight back. Nobody should get close to you emotionally, physically, otherwise. So now, because that barrier that you didn't know existed has been broken, wouldn't you feel threatened?
Definitely. And see, this is why I have like my debate when it comes to those subjects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with an African American community, right? At some point, and is being sexually abused when you're a child wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not your
Right.
fault. Nothing you did wrong. At some point, when you become an adult, you have to make a decision. Because even if that young lady is promiscuous because of her sexual assailant, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
at some point you have to know sleeping around is not good, especially for your mentals. You have to, at some point.
So here's the problem with mental health. How do you know it's broken if it's always been broken? How do you know to fix it if it's always been broken?
Okay, I will say this. I always use this example. Okay, I'm talking about the females, and I'm gonna talk about the guys. Now,
Right.
as far as a female, if a female is promiscuous because of her situations that happened to her when she was growing up, right? If that same young lady catches an STD and gives it to another man, and that man, finds out it was her who did it, that man ain't gonna care nothing about what happened to you when you was growing up, right? And God forbid if it's something that he can't get rid of, AIDS, HIV, and you ruin this man's life, right? At some point, you have to come to a realization that you knew what you was doing was very risky, right? You had to have known, like, and the fact that you know it's risky because you don't tell people. You try to keep what you do on the low as much as possible because subconsciously you know this ain't a good thing, right? Same thing with a man. If a man was, sexually abused growing up, and he's aggressive, he's always angry, gets into, always situations, and then he makes that one bad decision that he kills somebody, right? And I tell anybody this, especially our Black men, I hope that they're listening. If you go do something, and just say you're 25 years old, right? And you go before that judge, you can your lawyer, your mother, anybody can vouch for you and say what happened to you. This is why you were angry growing up. This is why you had constant issues, right? That judge gonna look, and you could be the man and say, I'm sorry for what I've done. I realized what I did was wrong. You could be, different person, because most murder trials take 2 or 3 years to come to court. So what you could have done could have happened 2 or 3 years ago. You could be a completely different person, a model citizen since you've been in prison, gotten some degrees under your belt, helped other young people coming in. You know what that judge gonna do? Judge gonna look right at you and say, you know what? I understand, young man, but what you did was murder. 25 years of life. Period. Because there's no, you cannot, and what I'm trying to say is, you Black people, we cannot make excuses.
Now that point, I agree with you.
Choices. You have to at some point understand, regardless of what happened to you, because I use myself as an example all the time. I tell anybody, I could have took what happened to me and used it as a way to grow up and be nothing in life.
Mm-hmm.
I could have easily said, okay, they put me in special education. You know, my cellmate is doing 4 years of life in prison. 4 life sentences plus 40 years. I seen kids, you know, I didn't seen boys touch other boys when I was in that hospital. I seen girls touch other girls. I seen kids like really, you know, lose their minds in there. I seen adults really lose their minds in there, which I really saw. I could have took all these visions and said, well, I'm gonna grow up to be the same way. Or I'm gonna have all this inside of me, all this anger. But I was like, nah, because I know where I come from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I had to make a choice, and I chose to be opposite. I said, I'm not gonna be what they say that I am. So I think with me, Jara, I think it's more so because I've gone through some things. I think I'm a little bit more harder on people because it's like when people do something and they say, oh, it was the alcohol. But at what point did you not realize that you was drinking too much?
Right.
You know, at some point you got to know what you're doing. You got to be accountable for the things that you do. You know?
Yeah. However, again, let's take it back to the Bible. They always say, God forgive them, for they know not what they do.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. Now,
right,
I could be wrong, but I think that was just happening when Jesus asked God to forgive those who was piercing them in his side because they did not know what they was doing.
But think about it.
Hindsight, because nobody knew that was Jesus. Like, you know what I'm saying? So maybe realistically, yeah, they had no idea they was killing God. Like, do you
remember the song? What if God were one of us?
Yeah.
So if the theory is true and Jesus is coming back, how do we know that you're not talking to her right now? How do you know that the person that you open the door for is not? Right? Like, I get what you're saying because I feel the same way, like for little things. Like when I go to a restaurant, because I've spent so much time in the food industry and being a waitress, there's a bare minimum that I tolerate. You know, because it's a job that you've chosen to do. So for the job that you've chosen to do, I expect you to show up for yourself because you chose to do this. And for me, that's what you're saying. However, everybody ain't you and everybody ain't me. So I can't expect what I've learned and what I know to transpire to everybody else because they were fortunate, or maybe, depending on how you look at it, unfortunate to experience life the way I did. So God forgive them because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand where you're coming from. You know what? And to touch on two things as far as biblically, God gave every man a measure of faith. You know, your faith may be not as big as someone else's, just depending on, you know, where you come from.
Right.
You know, so I can definitely understand from that standpoint. You know, I just, you know, me having 3 daughters myself, I am so thankful because I have an opportunity to really tell them about men and to speak truthfully to them. You know what I'm saying? Because I you know, I'm a man. One, I'm a man myself, and two, you know, I will tell my daughters and I teach them that your name is the most important thing that you have. Because your name, can either good or bad, it's gonna carry you one way or another. You know, and you never want to get a reputation to where people know you for doing certain things that's not good. You have to protect your essence. You know, it's not, you know, it's not cool to be promiscuous. You know what I'm saying? It's not respectable to dress a certain type of way because you don't love yourself enough for a man to appreciate the way you carry yourself.
Mm.
You know, you walk like a goddess, your God will come to you. You carry yourself in such a manner. You know, if you dress a certain type of way, you're going to attract a certain type of man. You know,
Well,
and go ahead.
I won't belittle it, because as a woman, I don't like that whole dressing thing, because you got celebrities out here with 2 and 3 and 4 kids with husbands and half naked, and still you give them the respect.
Oh,
So,
who is you? I don't
well,
give that respect.
maybe not you per se, but what I mean is, you don't feel a way about Tina Turner, do you?
No, but see, that's looking at it from that's the world's perspective. See, okay, so the world will think that it's okay or it's cool for a female to dress a certain type of way because that's the way the world thinks. See, you can't think in that type of mindset when you want to
So
elevate to somewhere different. You know what I'm saying? You have to.
maybe more time and place, right? Because you could say, if a young lady's at the beach with a two-piece on, that's the right time and the right place. The classroom, however, is not. The outfit is appropriate. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, okay, for certain situations, certain attire is appropriate for the setting. I get what you're saying.
Correct, because
You
you're
know,
gonna have women, you're gonna have your daughters. I don't know how they look, but a young lady that I'm close to is built like a brick house, and she's only 16. I
yeah.
remember being that 16-year-old, but you know what? Men and my mom and society said I couldn't wear nothing. There was nothing I could wear. I couldn't wear a baggy shirt. I couldn't wear baggy pants. Why? Because they could see my form. So what that did to me was made me afraid of myself.
Okay. Once again, I honestly believe in our generation. I can speak for our generation.
Right.
God knows I can't say that about them now, but I honestly, because we grew up hard, hardcore in the church. Now, with my mom, she wasn't heavy on my sister as my grandmother was heavy on my mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She wasn't, oh, you can't wear pants, or you can't wear makeup, you can't wear earrings, you're going to hell. No, my mother wasn't like that. And really, to be honest, neither was my grandmother. My grandmother was very laid back, because she was very real with us about life. So she wasn't, as hard as some people I grew up with in church. Their mothers was like, yeah, it was like that. You had to wear skirts past your knees, stockings. You know what I'm saying? God knows don't have no shirt on that's even showing an inch of your cleavage. You know what I'm saying? Any of that stuff.
Yeah, it better be a college shoe.
Exactly. So I understand from what your mom and them was doing wasn't like, oh, we're trying to keep you away from, expressing yourself, if you will. It's just more so like, okay, we understand there's men out here who get turned on by that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be honest with you. I'll be very honest with you. Man, my daughters are very young, 6, 2, and 10 months. So we
You got
haven't even, yes.
You ain't even in that lane yet. Oh,
no. And I pray to God there's a lot of traffic when I get there, because for real. But I would say, I understand why they did it. And the more older I get, I'm almost 40. I appreciate how we was raised growing up in the church, because our parents did the best that they could. But I appreciate it in the morals and the values and the principles that they taught us, because when you get older, you start to see things differently. Like I see some young girls I be out here, I be like, yo, where's their mom at? Where they daddy? Who let them come out the house like that? Because you really do got pedophiles out here. You know what I'm saying? You like you say how your friend 16 years old, and the way she's shaped. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm sure it's grown men out here that will take advantage of her mentally.
But therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem, right? we will shelter our daughters and make them fearful of the boogeyman instead of strengthening them and making them strong in their mind about what they have, right? You can't change that man, or for that matter, you really can't change the body that that young lady has.
True.
So what I'm going to do is empower her. If I'm worried about people that may feel like they can overcome her physically, I'm going to make sure she trains weaponry and her body. You know what I'm saying? She can fight and shoot. Then she ain't going to be afraid. It's not going to be a matter of, oh, I can't wear this dress because I might go to the prom and some random person that I don't know may feel like they can put his hands on me. Cool, I got something for you if that's the way you feel. Because this is my temple. You know what I mean?
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Regardless of how a woman's dressed, it's not cool for any man to try to violate her on any level. On any level. So I get where you're coming from.
But that ends up being the focus. So for young ladies in conversation, and since you haven't gotten there, typically what happens is it's, oh, I trust you. I don't trust the world. You can't do this because somebody that I don't know, never met, may possibly ever never do this thing. So don't you ever step out of line, run out. Don't that sound like slavery?
No. Okay. Well, that's a loaded question, Jara. Come on now.
I mean, I know, but I like my questions to be loaded and heavy.
Does it sound like slavery? To be,
you got to be in by a certain time. You can't wear this. You can't speak to these boys. You can't do this unless this is going to happen. And sounds like slavery.
To keep it 100 with you, nobody in the past 100 years probably really know what really went down in slavery. Now, do we know some horrific things happened? Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. There's no denying that. The rape, the molestation, the spiritual slavery, the conditioning, absolutely.
Not shame.
Absolutely. But at the same time, especially raising children, you have to have some morals. You have to have some standards. It's like, okay, you might have a really nice body and you may be very proud of your body. And I'm glad that you're proud of your body. But at the same time, like you said, don't just be mindful of what you have and respect. If you respect I put it this way, if you respect yourself, no man has no other choice, as you know, if you're a woman, has no other choice but to respect you because you respect yourself. Now my wife got a gorgeous body, beautiful body. She got just the way I like it. But she's also aware, because she's married, there's certain things she's not gonna wear outside this house because she knows she has an alpha male for a husband, and she knows if some dude say something crazy, it's gonna be a problem.
Right.
So she already know I'm gonna wear certain thing. I'm not gonna wear a certain thing, not because my husband got me on some type of chain and he's insecure. No, it's just that I understand as a wife and as a loving wife, I have to respect my husband because of how I carry myself is how people gonna view us. Not me, but us, because when it's marriage, it's become us now. Same thing with me. How I carry myself outside the household says a lot about the wife I got at the house.
Right.
If I wear certain things that I know women gonna be, if I wear certain things that I know women gonna be, looking at me a certain type of way, and it's, it's not, it's just, why create a problem if it ain't one? You know what I'm saying?
I understand all of that. I do. I really do. And again, it just goes back to time and place because, there's a certain way you met your wife. And although she may concede to certain things because now she is your wife and not just herself, there's still stuff. I'm still sure that when she go out with her girlfriends, there's stuff that you probably may feel a way about, but it's all good because she's still a woman. And she going out with her girlfriends. You know what I'm saying? Like my friend is like, oh, okay. I was like, I want to get these high boots. He was like, oh, they call them hooker boots. He was like, I caught my.
Is that who I know? Is that okay?
Yeah.
He would say something like that too.
I was like,
shout out to the homie though.
He didn't say that, right? Cool. He didn't disrespect me and call it that, but we all know that jokingly they're called hooker boots. Cool. He's like, listen, that's some stuff you're gonna wear out with your girlfriends because that's too much for me.
Yeah,
Fair.
because once again, he understands as a male and as a protector, we
Mhm.
don't want, you know what I'm saying? I've had situations where, well, okay, it's never been a situation when me and my wife was out and about where it came to that.
Right.
But my wife know if it came to that, I'm going all the way with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She know I'm going. It's no gonna be it's no
Right. You going
questions.
in?
Yeah, I'm going in all the way. You know what I'm saying? And it's mentally, once again, it's you prepare yourself, because like I said, my wife is beautiful. She's gorgeous. She's just the way I like it. Like her per se. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? She understands, like, okay, I know that, my husband is a protector, and I know that certain things is going to
He about that
upset
life.
him. Exactly. Certain things are going to upset him. Same thing with me and with my wife. Certain things that I know I'm not going to wear. Even when we go out to eat, I ain't going to lie to you. I'm going to keep 100. I let her order everything. And I'm going to tell you why. If it's one of them little sassy waitresses that be coming to the table, I don't even look at them. I just like, yo, my wife go, because the waitress, she ain't gonna want no smoke. My wife gonna go in. I already know she gonna do it, so I'm like, nah. They talk to my wife. Look, whatever she want is cool. She gonna order my food too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's not that my wife controls me or something. No, it's just more just like, yo. You know what I'm saying? We already know the vibe. We already see what's happening here.
Charismatic. You don't want to come off away. You know what I'm saying? Whoop, whoop, whoop. You don't want to hurt no feelings.
Same thing when you and your guy go out. Y'all go out. And if it's a dude, you know what I'm saying, that's probably attractive, you know what I'm saying, or something like that, you're going to probably be like, yo, he gonna order our food, because you don't want that man to say something or ask you. He may ask you, so how do you want your steak? But the way he asks you that may set your man off. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you mean how she want? You know what I'm saying?
No, bro. She don't want no steak.
Yeah, exactly. you might want some steak for that eye, because you're going to need one for what I'm about to do. So fall back. You know what I'm saying? So right, I just think when it comes to that, it's not we're not conditioned to have our spouses, or significant others on the leash. It's just a respect thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's me all day. My wife knows that about me. I'm super big on respect. You ain't gotta like me, you ain't gotta love me, but you're gonna respect me. If not, you can't be around me, because we're gonna have a problem. So,
but all that goes back to self-respect, right? The clothes, how you talk to your kids.
Exactly. You can wear something, but you just gotta carry yourself in a classy way.
Correct. You know, and that's all I mean. With my parents, with parents in our generation, they just didn't understand how to teach the self-love, the self-worth, the self-respect, the mindfulness of what you have. We were taught a lot of fear. And it's not, no harm against our parents. It's just what they knew how to teach. My mother's father was an enslaved person. Think about that. My mother's father.
Yeah.
So my great-grandfather was an enslaved person. That man was enslaved and raised my grandmother, who raised my mother, who raised me. Think about all that ideology that trickles down to me.
No doubt.
And all of that, it's deep rooted and it's deep seated, and we are, I believe, the generation that's like, yo, it stops with us. I mean, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to evaluate that thought process and see what serves me and my family and what doesn't, and then go from there.
True that. And we touched on a lot of subjects. We're gonna have to definitely do this again. Now, what do you do now? And now, as far as you're a fitness trainer, correct?
Of course, yes, sir.
Okay, so now, explain to those who are listening, how does that fitness play a part in mental health, being physically fit?
In the fitness game, everybody got it backwards. The body does nothing. The body does what the mind tells it to. The mind can stop the body before it even gets started. You've had it happen. Oh, I'm gonna go to this. I'm gonna go get up and take a shower. I'm gonna go get up and give my wife flowers. And then, I don't know, squirrel happens and you don't do the thing. It's because your mind, right? You ever told yourself, I can't do that, and then you don't? It was because you said you couldn't. So my mental breakthrough allowed my fitness game to step up. Now, maybe not to what bodybuilders do, but definitely to a point where I could be consistent and take care of myself daily. I gotta find a plug. Don't mind me. I'm just moving around. But yeah, consistently. Like, consistency is the only thing that's gonna keep us alive and healthy and well as long as we want. There we go.
So now, when you do your classes, is it all just physical, or do you get on the mental side as well?
Yo, in my classes, I use music and then my own voice to kind of tap into the mental. And a lot of popular music that we listen to, albeit secular, has a lot of good quotes in it. Trying to think of something I did today.
Hold on. You said the music that you listen to got a lot of good quotes in it.
Yeah. Even if it's simple.
Hold on now. Let's keep it 100. You know what I said before we start filming. What did I say about quotes?
You have the best quotes. Now, I didn't say they have the best. I said they have good quotes. Oh, snap.
Cool. Good quotes are good. I respect good quotes. None like mine, but I respect them. Oh, we sing. Hold on. Still there? Hold on 1 second. Okay, people, those who are watching, we seem to have some technical difficulties going on. Please be patient. Give me a minute. Give me 1 minute. Let me see what's going on real quick. Hold on 1 second. And hold on 1 second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we might have to end the podcast and might have to come back to you guys. We seem to be having some technical difficulties. Thank you guys for watching. If we don't get back online tonight, please thank you guys for watching. You can always contact me on Facebook at Matthew Griffin. You can contact me at IG at gift, GIFT _ of Gab 1982. This has been the No Sky Podcast, where we discuss mental health in the African American community. I hope you learned something good tonight. I appreciate all those who have watched. Thank you, and please tune in next week for another special guest. Until then, peace.